Hello and welcome to another edition of Mailbag. What is Mailbag? Well, Mailbag is a feature of the channel where you guys leave lots of comments on the channel and I attempt to answer those comments, or if I can't answer those comments, I throw it out to you guys who have more knowledge on some of this stuff than I do. So let's get into the first mailbag of this session. Remember, like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Go over to Instagram and follow me there. Go over to Facebook, follow me there. That's where the normal notices are. And consider becoming a Patreon. This is an interesting one. It comes from Ed Straker, and I don't get very many heavily negative feedback, but my policy is if the feedback is well constructive, I will publish it. So this one comes from Ed Straker, and it was in response to a series of videos I did on my overview of the Korg Poly 61 in November 2021. Although I filmed them back in the summer, it took me a long while to get them through post. And Ed writes, let me find the right, here you go. The follow-up to the Poly 61 was the Poly 800, and then the Poly 800 Mark II before the DW600 and DW800. Sorry, DW6000 and DW8000. I'm sorry, man, but I wish you'd try to talk about these synths as if you know about them. It's clear you have not done enough research. It takes a rare talent to make this brilliant synth sound so bad as that. It's capable of very powerful and rich sounds you also have on monophonic while trying to demonstrate chords. And I've put my hands up a couple of times and said I really didn't have enough time with the Poly 61. The Poly 61 was owned by a friend of mine, Richard, who lives a little bit up the coast. And he was selling it when he lent it to me. The problem was that by the time I'd done a little research, he'd actually sold it very quickly. So I didn't have enough time to put a lot of research in and film the synth. So I've apologised for that on numerous occasions to camera. But this particular video, the series of videos on the Poly 61 have really stirred you guys up in terms of my view of the Poly 61 and what you are describing to me. I mean, the story behind it was when I was lent the synth, I was also made aware it was for sale. So that's the bottom line. And the owner had not had any bites when I, had been lent the synth. And so thinking I had a few weeks to play around with it, and immediately as he sort of dropped it off, he was on the phone saying, "John, I'm dreadfully sorry, but I've sold it." So literally, I had several days with it, which wasn't particularly long enough to do an in-depth video of the kind I wanted to do. But I did want to do a video on the Poly 61 anyway. So the video did lack the normal due diligence I did. I just didn't have enough time. So I shot footage and then put footage together and hoped that the video would stand by itself, which unfortunately it didn't. I've always said if I get it wrong or make a complete hash of it, then I'll put my hands up. So this was an apology. I wrote an apology to Ed and said I'm really dreadfully sorry. I did make a hash of this one. And he wrote back and said, "Hi John, I'm sorry I was so critical of your review. The Poly 61 was the first polyphonic synth I brought after that, starting out with monosynths. First a Cat SRM and then a Sequel Circuits Inc. Pro 1. I love the rich sound of the Poly 61. The dumbest move I made was trading it in for a DX7 in 1983. I suppose the problem was that the DX7 was the synth of the day. And people get caught up in marketing sometimes, so I can understand that. After a few months, I traded the DX7 for a Sequel Circuits Profit 600 and then kept that for decades. The Poly 61 gets a lot of hate because of the programming method, with no knobs and sliders, but the sounds are so great compared with the weaker one oscillator Poly 6. I see a lot of people reviewing vintage synths and pass on misinformation and perpetual untruths that they've heard. Sometimes I take it personally when they are talking about a synth that I know and like. So I apologise for my bad attitude and my initial comment. I do like your channel. Look forward to more videos. You know, as I said, if I get it wrong, I'll get it wrong. If I get it wrong and you guys pull me up on it, you know what? This is the sort of thing I do. I post the comment to the channel, I say I've got it wrong, and then I go on camera and apologise. It was good to understand Ed's point of view. I think that's the key point here. It is true that Poly 61 did not sell well, but at least from your trays you arrived at the Prophet 600, and the Prophet 600 was a seriously awesome machine. So many of the synth legends that I follow were Prophet fans, and the Prophet 600 was one of the sort of key keyboards from that stable in the sort of mid 80s, I suppose. I have to admit that I've yet to own a sequential circuits board, and that's true. I keep looking out for sequential circuits machines. A few come up, and then the bidding on them just goes astronomical. It's to a level that, at the moment, given my financial situation, I just can't justify that level of expense. But if somebody has a Prophet 600 and they would like to lend it to me so that I can do a review on it, bear in mind I will probably need about 4 weeks with it. Okay, so it tends to take about a week to get au fait with the machine, a week to do some research, a week to put the videos together, and then a week to actually film the videos. So I don't need it while I'm doing post, but I really do need it for that 4 week period so that I can actually get familiar with the machine. The Poly 61, I didn't have enough time with the machine, and that was predominantly the problem I had here. Was there was just not enough time to do a good job. And Ed, rightly so, Ed has pulled me up on that, and I have to bow to the fact that I got it wrong. But at the end of the day, you've given me critical feedback, and as I said, my policy is as long as you make your case well, you get published. So there you go. Next one's from Marcin N. And he writes, in response to initial setup options for the Roland TB-3, a video I did back in April 2019. He writes, she writes, using the TB-3, is it possible to change the bassline pattern, not from presets included, but written the pattern by ourselves when playing live at the same time, having variation in melody? And the simple answer to the question is yes, you can play a new pattern into the unit while it is in play mode. There are two ways to do it. One, you can have it in step mode, or you can have it in real-time mode. Personally, of the two, step mode is better way of doing things, but both are, to be honest, rubbish. And I do mean that sincerely, but both are rubbish. The unit plays best with presets. The best way to use the TB-3 is to set your presets up and then swap from one preset to another as you go through your jam, rather than trying to write presets or trying to write step sequences in a live mode, because it just doesn't work that way very well in my experience anyway. Maybe you have a different experience, but my experience is don't do it. It's just not worth the aggro.